I had this like allergic reaction to even the term personal branding.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I just thought like it's so self-indulgent. It's quite egotistical. The fact that you're branding yourself, the only sacred thing you have, and you want to market yourself. And I just don't see it that way now. I've just redefined what personal branding means to me. For me, it's about the people that you're trying to serve and impact, whether you're a solopreneur or you're a corporation. We should be customer centric. We should be customer obsessed. We should be audience obsessed.
Yeah.
That's the key, I think, to figuring out your brand strategy.
Ash Rathod.
Hello.
Welcome to the HoLT Survival Guide for Small Businesses.
It is an honour and humble to be here.
Before we came on here, you told me that you don't do things like this very often. So I'm really honoured that you decided to come and join us today in Manchester.
Yeah, I mean, I've said off air that Manchester's my second home. So it's always lovely to be here. And there's been so many times where I've had the opportunity to come and see you, like your Christmas parties and stuff, and then just some things come up.
I know.
And it's lovely to do it after so long.
Finally got there.
Yeah.
So before we get into things, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So simply, I help people and businesses tell their story to help them grow. That's the very simple version of it. And if I were to kind of expand on that, I am a brand strategist, a storyteller, and my background has always been in communications of some sort. At university, I fell in love with storytelling, and it was more on the entertainment side of things. So I did media communications at university, and but specialized in script writing. So script writing for TV, film, radio, that sort of thing. I didn't quite do media production, but I was more into the writing side of things. And it was just, I don't know why I fell in love with it. I think it was just, I love dialogue for some reason. I love people. And it's weird in terms of what I do now. It's kind of gone full circle.
Yeah.
And I fell into communications. I worked in TV for a while, thinking that I'll get into TV after university to get into film. Right. And I just did all right in sales. So I was doing TV sales, or media sales as it was called then, and I just did really well. And then I moved into marketing agencies, digital marketing, and I found that actually storytelling just is important everywhere, especially in business and communication. So I kind of, I stuck to that, and here I am. I'm going full circle back into the actual storytelling structures and how you tell stories, and I really focus on that these days when I'm helping people, individuals and businesses. Were
you a reader as a kid?
I read a lot. Yeah. I read a lot. I drew a lot as well.
Really?
I loved anything creative. So I went into music. I went into writing. I had a lot of brothers. I still have a lot of brothers. But
how many brothers?
So I've got 6 brothers.
Oh my gosh.
6 brothers, 7 including me.
Yeah.
And 1 sister.
That is a big family.
It's a big family, and hats off to
my
mum.
Were you a quiet one of the family?
Yeah, I think I was one of the quiet ones. There's a couple of us that are quite quiet. Then there's a few of us that are really extroverts, and if anyone sees us in public together, you wouldn't know we're brothers. We're just completely different. Yeah,
it's funny because I was very studious, as they called it as a kid. I would binge through books. I remember my mum used to take me to the library, and she joked she needed to get me a little cart like Matilda used to have on the film to carry all the books back, because I would just go cover to cover, multiple books a day. And she's like, I think you've read the entire children's section of the library. You need to now move on to the teenage section. Yeah. But I loved it. And I was obsessed with how you could create worlds with words. And that's what you help people to do, isn't it? You help them to convey their world to the rest of the world, their own story, their own experiences. Why is that so important for businesses to understand and share their brand story?
I think it's a way of connection. I think it's the way we connect with brands. You know, there's obviously the usual case studies like Apple and the big companies that have been great at humanizing their brand in themes like, you know, being the creator and things like that. But the fact that you do that and you connect with people, I think that's where storytelling comes alive. And and I think it's important. And going back to your point about the books, I was exactly the same, and it was a form of escapism as well, without probably me not really knowing it as a kid. You draw yourself into these books, and there's an actual term called narrative transportation, and it's you just get into this world. And we do it when we watch movies, and we do it with brands as well, because it kind of helps identify, give you that identity, and it helps you, I don't know, connect with a certain tribe as well. You know, you get your Apple tribes, you get your Android tribes, you get your Tesla tribes, you get your I don't know,
Harry Potter tribes, Lord of the Rings tribes.
Yeah,
I was part of those. Oh well, I still am.
Yeah, there's that certain identity, and I think, if as a storyteller, whether you're a individual or a business, and you find out what that tribe is and what that tribe's mores is, what Martin Neumeyer talks about, their values, and you align with them, you just have a stronger brand.
Yeah. One of the things I have tried to explain to people in the past when I've been working with them on like LinkedIn training, people have this kind of assumption that when we're talking about personal brand, that we mean you have to tell everybody everything about yourself, that you have to dump everything, or your entire identity out into the public eye. And that's not true. Actually, it's about finding the things that you have in common with people. And if people can find something that they have in common with you, they're going to be more likely to remember you. And your story's so much part of that. And, you know, as an example, people connect with me because they know I'm a lone parent, or that I'm a parent of a boy, or that I like football, or that I like to travel. And they'll find these little sections of commonality, connect with me, therefore remember me more, because they know that I've got something in common with them. So I stand out more in their brain. And then they're more likely to pay attention to me the next time they see me, and feel closer to me and trust me more, because they can relate to something personal. And the more of those little strands that you can create of like connection between people, the more points of commonality they can find with you, the higher the chance that they're going to remember you, refer you, want to work with you, and it just accelerates that trust. So in terms of our listeners, let's say, because we've got, hopefully, I say, a lot of small business owners listening to us. One of the things I've come up against when it comes to speaking to small business owners in the membership community and through LinkedIn training is they'll say they're boring. They'll say, but I'm not a very interesting person. I'm just normal. We all think we're normal. How do you work with somebody like that to help them identify those important parts of their story that they can use to connect with the right people? Yeah,
I think I've said it before. I think I'm probably the most boring person ever, but people don't seem to think so. And I find it amazing that that one post that I wrote, accidentally, by the way, not accidentally, but it was more of a therapeutic post out there. It just resonated with many people on many different levels. Not the same details. They didn't have the skin condition that I had, but they identified with themes of being that imposter, but having that lack of confidence.
So this is a viral post that you put up, is it?
Yeah, and that was probably around about 2020, so probably about 5 years ago. I never used to use LinkedIn that much. I used it for our clients because I own an agency and I have for the last 15 years. And we used really LinkedIn for ads and things like that, but not really organic content, and definitely not for personal brands. And then I was just amazed by how much it resonated with other people. The amount of, not just the comments and engagement that I got, but the actual DMs that I got, private DMs. They wouldn't even want to comment publicly, but then in the DMs, they've said things like, I feel like I've been seen. You've been able to give me that bit of confidence to message you and talk about my things. And they talk about, and I was like, God, this is quite heavy because, it's quite heavy because obviously I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist, but it's heartwarming to see that it's touched so many people and they've not got the same details as me, like the vitiligo and stuff. And then when I started on LinkedIn and I started seeing pockets of people kind of doing the same thing, and you were definitely one of them for me. You were a huge inspiration. And again, there's the theme again, right? You. There's that theme again where me and you are completely different and different stories altogether, but those themes came into play where you didn't quite fit in, and actually now you've transformed into a different person and you've become confident because of that. And I think there's a lesson for the listeners out there. Like you have to really lean into that, and it takes a brave person. I understand that because I was exactly the same. But once you do that, you realize actually that was a superpower that you really wanted or you needed, and not to blend in. And I'll probably reference Martin Neumeyer a few times in this conversation, but it's the same with business. Like he wrote a book called The Zag. So the idea and the premise of that is when everyone's zigging, you zag. You just want to. You want to be different enough to be noticed, but you've got to do it honestly as well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll get into it because there's that other extreme where there's a very much those contrived posts and they just do it for one reason only.
Yeah.
And that's not the way, but kind of lean into those things that you think are boring about you. You think that people, already know this as a business owner as well. With me in marketing as well, I talked about things and I talk about writing and I talk about storytelling. I'm not a writer at all. I'm not a copywriter, but I know a little bit. And then when you see people in your comments and engaging with you, thinking, I've learned something, you realize actually not everyone knows what you know, and you're not as boring as you think you are.
And that's it. Like the simplest stories can, or certainly I've experienced the fact that I'll tell a super simple story, but it'll make someone laugh or make someone feel good or make someone feel a little bit seen. And I was just doing a masterclass for my membership, and we were talking about like funny stories that you can tell. And we were talking about like when you end up in the emergency room, there's inevitably some sort of, we've all ended up in the emergency room at some point because of something a bit embarrassing or funny that's happened. Yeah. And we were sort of relating through humor a lot and those funny stories. And sometimes it can be the most minute things that you talk about that don't seem interesting when you're close up. But when you sort of step back a bit and look at it objectively, you go, actually, yeah, I suppose that is quite interesting to other people.
Yeah.
I ask other people if I'm like, I'm feeling boring and ordinary, I'll say to other people, like, what do you think is interesting about me? Like, is there anything that makes you go, oh, that's different or that's weird?
Yeah.
Because those, like the weird things are usually the things that make good content.
I think what's interesting is really weird. It's the mundane, but the mundane lived by someone else.
Yeah.
Because, and what I mean by that is that you go through your life and just doing normal things, and then when you see other people doing it in a slightly different way, you just think, hey, it's relatable because we're exactly the same. And the second thing is it's that fly on the wall mentality. You know, when we see the reality shows and stuff, like what's weird is there's the program in obviously the UK called Gogglebox. And it's just people watching TV.
This is the thing. It winds me up so much. It's one of my my pet peeves is how popular Goggle, and this is such an unpopular opinion, but Gogglebox is literally a TV show where we are watching other people watching TV shows.
How could that be interesting?
And I'm like, But for me, it's not. I am not. I don't like Gogglebox. I'm just like, why on earth would I spend any of my life watching other people watch TV? Watching TV is a waste of time enough, and I feel guilty about it because I need to be busy all the time.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I
do you like any reality?
I do like The Island with Bear Grylls. I used to love watching.
Oh yeah.
Or like the survival ones or the race across the world ones. I find those quite interesting, but more from a travel perspective.
What about, have you got
challenge.
into Traitors?
I did watch The Traitors, but from like a psychological standpoint, I find it fascinating to watch that. And we won't do any spoilers. Hopefully everyone's seen it all by now. But I've watched that, and I used to enjoy Big Brother from that standpoint. But before it was full of all the like fame hungry, desperate
celebs,
for the original ones.
And I think to your point there, the psychology side of it is just fascinating how people behave in different environments and circumstances.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, you know, when you tell your stories online, whether it's about you on a personal level or whether it's about you in a work situation, it's just interesting. And then people get involved as well. And that's great because everyone has opinions, and hopefully it stays kind of civil, which doesn't always happen, but
more so on LinkedIn than other social media platforms, I would say. I posted something on TikTok the other day of my son playing football, and there were literally people in the comment sections criticizing and insulting, and I'm like, he's a 9-year-old boy. Like, luckily he's not on TikTok, and I find like TikTok's like the Wild West. I'm like, I don't think I want to go on TikTok. But obviously I've deleted the comments and I'm not showing them to my son. But I'm thinking, who are these people that feel comfortable insulting a 9-year-old kid following their dream? Like, that's wild to me.
Why do you think that is with LinkedIn? Is it because the fact that you don't really hide
it's
who you are?
Because you've got your real name.
Yeah.
Because the people who do it, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, they always do it with a fake photo or no photo and no followers. So it's like a burner account or something.
Yeah.
LinkedIn's got your employer, your colleagues, your business attached to it. Predominantly, you know, there are people that use fake profiles, but they're fewer and further between. But if it keeps getting as popular as it has been over the last few years, I imagine that it will inevitably attract those sorts of people eventually.
Do you enjoy those? Enjoy is probably an extreme word, but when someone disagrees with you and they debate.
Yeah, I enjoy intelligent discourse.
Yeah, me too.
Like if I'm, you know, I've been on dates before where we've not agreed on something, but we've had a really brilliant conversation where we're totally open to other people's opinions. Then I've also had dates where I've got up and walked off because they won't debate in a civil and respectful way.
Yeah.
You know, and I think LinkedIn people tend to be less inclined to sling mud and personal insults. Not always. Like, I've had all sorts of things on there, but a lot less than I would have done on other platforms.
And I think that, you know, I think that's important for individuals, but also for businesses as well. I honestly think there's a lot of people that take the advice be polarizing in the wrong way. Like, polarizing doesn't have to be go out and insult people and offend.
No, you can be playful with polarizing stuff as well, can't you? You can be respectful and offer an alternative opinion without criticizing others or without, you know, I am guilty of it sometimes because I don't like it when people cheat the system. I've got a very strong sense of justice.
Well, that's one thing.
And I know that's something that we agree on when we see people that are, you know, overinflating their metrics and then using that fake popularity to sell a service, for example. That makes me quite frustrated.
But having said that, the reason why you do that is because your values are to help that kind of the small businesses. And when you've got people championing that side of things, that's not going to help the small business in any way, shape or form. And it's only going to put money in those people's pockets.
And it creates so much
that's like
self-esteem issues and comparisonitis in these small business owners going, well, hold on a minute. I'm doing these vapid posts of me holding a whiteboard with some generic quote written on it. Why hasn't mine gone viral?
Yeah.
Why is mine terrible? Why does nobody like me? And you're like, no, babe, there's nothing wrong with your content. It's the fact that you haven't added it to a engagement pod or, got millions of AI commenters.
Yeah.
Spouting stuff on it.
And why? I've always been interested in people's opinions on this. So I'm going to ask you, why do you think people are attracted to that? Like when they see this engagement and they want to know how it's done, and then they kind of might realize that they're in pods and they actually succumb to it themselves and they start in those pods. I
think some people think that it is how you do it. They just, because they haven't been on LinkedIn for very long, they get sort of sucked into that, well, this is just how you grow. And if you want to get seen, this is how you do it. And they'll get people that prey on them. Because it happened to me when I first started on LinkedIn. I had a lot of people message me going, do you want to join our engagement group? And I was like, no, not really. Because I don't
really know.
I didn't know what it was. But when they said to me, you just comment on people's posts, I was like, well, why would I comment on people's posts that I don't actually like? That seems weird. Like I only want to comment on stuff that I actually enjoy seeing, because I had some awareness of the fact that algorithms will show me more of content like what I've commented on. So if I'm commenting on some
some people don't have that knowledge, especially that's quite
so
good.
I think
that
it's
you
just
have that
naivety.
Awareness.
The people that I know that have been sucked into these, it's just pure naivety. And then they go, actually this isn't working, and it feels weird that I'm leaving 20 comments on posts that I don't really understand or I'm not interested in. And I feel ick because it's not genuine. It doesn't feel good for me to leave a vapid, empty comment just for the sake of it. And after a few weeks, they feel that ick deep inside and go, I don't really want to do this anymore. This doesn't feel right. And now my feed is full of content that I'm not interested in. So this is not working for me. But then there are people that really just care about what it looks like to the outside world. And those are the people that will follow it
pat on the back and validation.
Because it's one of those, if everybody thinks I'm popular, then I'm going to get all these opportunities. And to be fair, it does happen. They do get opportunities.
Depending on what they do, though, I think, as well, in terms of what they're trying to sell themselves. So I just see it as fake influence. I just never really understood it. I feel like you're also you're a slave to the algorithm in a certain way. And
to be honest, having that many people following you and engaging with you regularly, and you're supposed to reply to all of their comments, it's exhausting.
Energy drain, massive energy drain.
And the expectations people have of you, which I still find strange, just because you've got a big following, they expect you to be something, not everybody obviously, but they expect you to be something impressive because you've got this big following, and you're like, well, no, I'm just still ordinary. I'm still a very ordinary person.
The most important, I think, out of it all is that I think people are becoming a lot more savvy to it. So when you see those numbers, every post gets so many likes and so much engagement. The people aren't stupid. There are people out there that look at those and think there's something dodgy going on there, and that just kills your credibility. So the people that you're actually probably trying to serve, that are ready to spend with you, they're going to look at that and think, no way. And you don't.
Or they'll spend with you and realize that you can't live up to what the expectations are because it's all fake.
This is it.
And then they're disappointed, and then you're worse off than when you started because actually you've acquired a client and disappointed them. How many of their friends are going to now know because they've gone, that wasn't what I thought it was going to be. They were really disappointing, or it's just all hype. That's so much worse for you as a brand than just being honest and having a small genuine following to start with.
One of the things that we teach in brand strategy is that we call it radical differentiation. So
right. What's that mean?
Radical differentiation is just be really different. Like it's just be really different to be noticed. But there is a caveat to that, is also be really good.
Yeah.
Right. So because you'll see a sea of sameness, and you'll see the likes of like from company point of view and products, the likes of Liquid Death. They look radically different.
Yeah.
They stand for completely different. They look like a craft beer. Their whole communications is very kind of rebellious, and you put them in a supermarket line of waters. You've got Volvics, you've got the Evians, you've got the clear water, what we call the tribute bands, like the ones that copy the ones that have been doing well for years. And then comes along is Liquid Death, looking different, being different, but then it also has quite an important purpose as well. So I don't know whether you're aware, but it's Liquid Death because their villain was death to plastic. It's ruining the earth. So we've come in cans which are recyclable.
Yeah.
So it has a purpose. It's quite rebellious, and they're doing good. So. And we can do that as well. Like people, we can be different, or at least embrace and lean into our differences.
Yeah.
But you better be damn good at what you do as well.
I need to quickly interrupt our chat to tell you about our brilliant sponsor. Running your own business takes courage, dedication, and hard work. And that's why over 100,000 small businesses and freelancers count on Kudos to protect what matters most. From professional indemnity and public liability to personal accident and income protection coverage, you'll only pay for the protection your business actually needs, with no unnecessary extras. In a world of rising prices, Kudos has kept premiums steady for 8 years running. Plus, with their price match guarantee, you'll always get the best value without compromising on quality or service. Kudos understands that your business is more than just your work. It's your passion, your livelihood, and your future. Their policies and award-winning service are designed to give you complete peace of mind, so you can focus on what you do best, running your business. Head to kudoscontractor.com to learn more and use code LEA10 at checkout to get 10% off your first policy, subject to eligibility. Now, back to the conversation. So, following on from that then, I suppose, you mentioned, and I'm sure anyone watching, they're aware you have vitiligo.
Yeah.
But that didn't start until later in your life, right?
No, that didn't start probably from I think it was 2018 or so.
2018.
Yeah.
So seven years ago, you started losing the pigmentation in your skin.
Yeah.
And you told me before this chat that you've always felt a little bit different. You never quite fitted in.
Yeah.
But now visually, you don't fit in. How did you find the confidence? Because you told me that you only started posting on LinkedIn in 2020. Were you scared of how people were going to receive you when you started posting publicly? Like, there must have been some trepidation.
Yeah, I was scared before the posting. So a lot of my clients with the agency were in America. One of my big clients were in Switzerland, parts of Asia as well. So even before COVID and, everyone started using video calls for Zoom and Teams and things like that, we were on video calls a lot because our clients were abroad.
Yeah.
And then when this skin condition started happening, it was just, I went through a real downer. Like, it really affected my mental health and confidence, to the point where I was not switching off or making excuses not to switch on my camera when talking to clients.
So was it on your face straight away?
Yeah, it started on my eyelashes around my eyes, it was slowly building up, and then you can see it. And I think I probably noticed it more than people probably wouldn't have even told it on camera in the early stages. But because I was noticing it, it became a big thing. So I just went inwards.
Yeah.
And I made excuses just to switch off my camera. And I got away with it for a while until the CMO of one of the companies that I worked with said, I've not seen you in a while, Ash. It's like, what do you mean? We have weekly meetings. And I knew what she meant. And she said, well, you never switch on your camera. Is everything all right? And that gave me the permission to talk about it. So I emailed her and I told her exactly what was going on. And she was so really, really nice about it. And weirdly enough, it gave me enough confidence, but still I was going through this, like, I don't want to share with the world. I was stopping going to social events, like with friends and stuff. And I knew that people I knew from years ago on LinkedIn, so I didn't want to show myself. And it got to a point where it was really affecting me, my relationships, business as well, because obviously I was avoiding these calls and meetings. And yeah, my wife just said, you really need to go and see someone, like you need to get professional help.
Yeah.
And I just, I've told this story a few times, but I'll say it again. I've always been the type of person that never really liked to talk about things. And I don't see it that way now. I think everyone should talk to someone about things and get it out of their heads. But for me back then, I was like, no, I don't want anyone to talk about it because it's going to make the problem worse for me. And because I'm just thinking about it a lot. Anyway, I decided to write about it. I just thought, I knew my wife was right. And I thought, I just need to write about it. And in all my wisdom, I chose LinkedIn to do it and wrote about it. But I wrote about the story about my client helping me. So it was weird that I was almost over the hurdle, but I actually wasn't. So that first post talked about it's all right to be yourself. It's all right to lean into yourself.
But you didn't quite believe it.
I didn't quite believe it.
Yeah.
And but I did get a little bit of confidence because of what my client said. And then, I posted it and I was like, what the hell have I done? You know, like this is LinkedIn. This
Did
is
you have that vulnerability hangover from?
Yeah, horrible. I just didn't, I switched my laptop off and I thought I'm not going to.
Oh my gosh, I remember posting a video when I was talking. I think it was World Suicide Prevention Day or something like that. And a mental health charity had asked me if I'd be willing to talk about my own experience with mental health, and I was like, yeah, I'll do a post. And I posted a video talking about my mental health issues when I was a teenager, and I remember hitting post on it, and I felt like there were bugs crawling all over my skin, and I did exactly the same. Shut my laptop, went to the living room, sat on the sofa, and just went, oh God, like I don't want to look. I don't want to see any of the comments. I don't want to.
Was this before you got quite?
This was when I had quite a lot of followers. Yeah. So I knew that there was going to be a lot of DMs that I wasn't ready to deal with. Okay. And a lot of comments, either supportive or this belongs on Facebook, you know, those sorts.
Yeah.
But I knew that it would do good.
Yes,
and I think I'm always motivated by doing things that help others. So I knew that even though I felt uncomfortable, it would help others. And I'm pretty sure you're sort of similar. You get courage to do things because you know that the outcome is going to be really positive for other people. Yeah. And then your discomfort becomes worthwhile.
Yeah, totally. And I didn't realize that it would help so many people. So when I did get those comments and I did get those DMs talking about or telling me how much that story just empowered them.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird initially. Like, I was like, really? Like, you know, just me doing something for myself selfishly, really.
Yeah, because it was a
therapeutic thing.
Yeah.
Quite cathartic. Writing is cathartic like that. Anyway,
I feel the exact same. Like if I can't process something, if I write about it, and I did it at the weekend, something was bugging around my brain.
Yeah,
and I just thought if I write it, I feel better about it.
I wonder how many of us are very similar. I think quite a lot of us. Like if you find it hard to process in your head, and you actually write it, it just gives you a different lens altogether on things.
And especially when you put something out to the world, because you can kind of turn a difficult experience into something positive for other people. And then it's like, well, it's worth going through something difficult if something positive comes through from it, even if that positive thing isn't for me. But then it becomes the positive thing for you because you feel better because it's helped other people. And it's almost like it neutralizes a negative experience because now it has a positive purpose.
Totally. Yeah.
And then I can move on from things.
Yeah. And what's funny is, like, let's go back to the business side of things as well. And also just personal branding. I had a I don't know about you, but I had this like allergic reaction to even the term personal branding.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I just thought like it's so self-indulgent. It's quite egotistical. The fact that you're branding yourself, the only sacred thing you have, and you want to market yourself. And I just don't see it that way now. I've just redefined what personal branding means to me. And for me, it's about the people that you're trying to serve and impact. So, and I don't know whether that's just maybe me, but as I've said this before to you, probably on off air, that I've always wanted to shift the attention to someone else. And you mentioned that's one of the reasons why you did do this podcast as well, because you want to kind of shift the light to someone else. And that's what we should be doing in business. We should be customer centric, whatever size of business you are, whether you're a solopreneur or you're a corporation. And it's harder for corporations actually. And that's a good thing for your listeners and your audience, because you're a smaller ship to turn. And with corporations, they're very product centric, they're sales centric, they're investor centric, or they're shareholder centric. We should be customer centric. We should be customer obsessed. We should be audience obsessed.
Yeah.
And that's the key, I think, to figuring out your brand strategy. The three very simple questions we ask a business, and we obviously unpack it. The answers aren't simple, but it's who you are, what you do, and why you matter. And why you matter to them is the additional part. So if you can kind of answer that or go through a process of exploring each of those parts, you're pretty much on your way to figuring out your brand strategy.
Yeah. And it comes down to those like shared values, doesn't it? Because you can offer the best product ever, but if the people can't relate and don't connect with you as a brand, we'll probably go somewhere else.
It's a tribal thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's a tribal thing with companies. And I think that also extends or even starts with individuals as well. There are so many people that probably do what I do or do what you do, but there's a certain type of customer and audience that will only want to work with you.
Yeah.
Or just like a magnet, they pull towards you, you know?
Well, it's like with friendships, right? You walk into a pub and you don't know anybody, and you're going to find people that stand out to you in some way. Now, it might be because they've got brightly coloured hair, and you do as well. Or it might be that they're wearing a football shirt and you support that team.
Yeah.
And you gravitate towards people you find things in common with automatically. Or it might be you're standing at the bar and you happen to be next to one another and you strike up a conversation, but that person's only going to, make it to, right, we'll book up and meet at the pub next week as well. That's only going to happen if you find things in common. Yeah. If you immediately go, we have nothing in common, you'll walk up opposite directions in the pub and carry on your night with other people. Yeah. But when you find those things in common, you end up going, okay, should we hang out again?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's exactly the same thing. It's finding those bits in your story that highlight the values that you have, that your ideal clients are going to respond to. Yeah. And I do it. I talk about, and we talked about this earlier, I noticed when I started creating content that people really responded to the content about me and my son and me being a solo parent. And it created a lot of connection and a lot of messages from other solo mums going, oh my gosh, you give me hope that I can do this for my child one day. I'd love some advice on this, whatever. And I was building these relationships with these wonderful women. And I was like, okay, I need to talk about this more, because not only does it feel good to me, but it also is helping other people that I want to help.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I talked about it more. And you named that an underdog story.
Yes.
Which I don't think I quite resonated with, but I get the prospects, sort of like the rags to riches, the person that's been told she's never going to make it, made it. Are there some other examples of types of stories like that you give kind of quirky names to that we could maybe relate to?
Yeah, well, there's the rags to riches. A lot of this comes from Hollywood. So if you have a look at, or film generally, if you have a look at different themes that go on in films, there's the rags to riches, and then there's the loved one. But I think generally, I think all of these have a common thread, and it's that thread is the transformation. Like a story can't happen. A story and an anecdote are totally different things. Some people think an anecdote is a story, but a story has a certain structure, and that is that it has a character that desires something in some shape or form. There's a conflict that exists in between that thing that they're trying to get, and then they overcome that conflict, and there's that transformation, and then there's this new world that they've entered. And that new world doesn't just have to be a physical new world, it could be an internal new world. So your story on why it resonated with me, although I'm not obviously a single mum with a young kid in a different part of the country, what resonated with me was that theme and that transformation. Like, what have you achieved, and why have you done it? Like, these are quite general human themes. So if you can find any kind of story that shares these themes of transformation, you can lean into something that, you know, is quite unique to you, but you can bet your bottom dollar that it'll resonate with someone else.
Yeah, I'd never really considered that, but I guess, you know, your experience with your vitiligo coming out and feeling like you couldn't come out and be seen by people because you were nervous about how you'd be received. That was the same for me. I hid behind a logo on LinkedIn to start with, and I was like, "Oh no one's going to take me seriously," because my. Oh,
instead of your actual photo, you had your logo.
Yeah, I had a business logo for my original business because I thought I'd always been told no one will take you seriously in business because you're covered in tattoos, and I just took that for, you know, that's the truth. No one's going to take me seriously.
What was the impetus? What was the thing that made you actually then share the real you?
I just decided that LinkedIn was incredibly dry and boring and I didn't want to be there.
Right.
But I knew I needed to be there to get clients. So if I was going to do it, I was going to make it fun. And if I was going to make it fun,
it's almost
I
like
needed to be myself.
As well.
Yeah, I was like, sod it. Like, trying to pretend to be corporate is not going to work. This feels ick.
Was there any other accounts that inspired you to, like, you know, if it was dry and boring, but was there anyone?
There was a few that were like a bit more personable, but I was almost like reading them going, this is too personal. There was some of it and I was like, but there's no point to this post. This is just random wafflings
it's not going to help you as an audience.
Yeah, so I didn't really connect with them, but I was like, I think I'd posted a meme. I posted a random silly meme that I don't think I even really meant to post it on LinkedIn. I probably meant to post it on my Facebook, but I remember posting it and then it suddenly had 25,000 views in the space of an hour and I went, oh, humor actually works. And I think it was that made me go, actually, if people are engaging highly with a post that's not really LinkedIn appropriate, back in the days of everyone used to go, this is Facebook, it's not Facebook. And it resonated. And I was like, okay, humor works. I can be funny. Like, funny is comfortable for me. Self-deprecating humor, talking about silly stuff that's happened in my life, that was comfortable. And I think people who don't spend any time on LinkedIn have this illusion that it's a very serious place all of the time. But that's just because they never actually like and comment on content at all. So their algorithm hasn't learned what they want to see.
Yeah.
So
I think what are they around about 1 billion?
Over 1 billion users, but only 10% of people actually actively engage, create content, or leave comments, which is wild.
How, what that percentage is?
I think it's something like 1 to 2% are actually creating content,
and 10 still low.
Yeah, really low. Yeah, really low.
And but even then, like 1 to 3% of 1 billion is still a lot of people, and still I don't see a lot of those people that still do create content. So you're always seeing new people, and they've been creating content for a long time. So that side of it is important, and you know, that engaging with people. I mean, that's a different story altogether, isn't it? Like how do you find the time to comment and engage with people, to introduce new people into your feed?
It is hard work sometimes.
Have you done less of it yourself over time now? Because
I haven't had as much time to like go out commenting on other people's, to reply to comments on my own posts. You know, it's a bit of a catch-22. Yes, I got a big following, but the bigger the following, the more comments, the harder it becomes to actually respond to everybody. Yeah. So I do my best. I think one of the things that people do understand the practicalities of being a solo mum trying to juggle running a business and keep active on the platform and within the community as well. It can be a little bit overwhelming, but I think
I found, and this is another kind of brand strategy tip as well, is that you don't always have to sell to people, right? Your audience isn't always going to be people that buy from you. They've just got to align with your stories and values through stories, and they'll be your ambassadors. Like this.
That's a key thing, isn't it? LinkedIn isn't just about, or social media in general, it's not just about can I get clients, it's how many people know my name and are going to say my name when opportunities for me arise. Totally. So I can put myself in thousands more rooms by having those ambassadors out there.
Yeah, and that's kind of free marketing, you know. It's just and I mean, an example when it comes to business as well, I love the brand Patagonia. I don't really wear, or I've not really bought or purchased Patagonia stuff that much, but I like what they stand for. You know, and there's loads of companies out there that I love what they stand for and what they do. I don't really go and purchase their products, but I will talk about them and I will tell other people about them. So again,
and with what you do as work, you know, it's important to like I follow Beyond Meat on Threads.
Yes,
and they are so funny. Their social media manager, whoever they are brilliantly funny. The little cow that wears a cape, and I have bought Beyond Meat products in the past, but I'm not a frequent buyer because I'm a bit more committed to Quorn, and I'm hard to change my habits. Yeah. But I've eaten it and I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too.
But I will talk about it when I'm talking about brands that are really relatable, and so I'm sort of spreading the word of their brand, even if I'm not actually.
You know what's an interesting thing? I don't know whether you've noticed this, but how they position themselves in supermarkets. So you won't find them in the plant aisle, or sometimes you will, but when they first launched, you actually found them in the meat aisle.
Really? Yeah, how did they manage to swing that?
So right next to the rest of the meat, because their whole positioning was that we're not actually targeting vegetarians or vegans. We're actually targeting meat eaters who probably want to eat less meat.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, is that the right term? Flexitarians?
Yeah.
Maybe that, you know, want a meat-free day.
Yeah.
And because they're not preaching to the converted, they're trying to, you know, engage with an audience that actually hasn't ever tried something like that, because previous products before it never ever really tasted like meat, and they were here saying actually it'll be hard to tell the difference.
It's as somebody who hasn't eaten meat in over 20 years, whenever I have eaten Beyond Meat, it's quite jarring. Yeah. It tastes great, but it tastes so similar to what I remember meat to taste like that I've gone, are you sure this isn't meat?
Yeah.
Because I can't really remember what meat tastes like, but when the consistency and the flavour is so close to my memory of it that it's almost a bit like I feel a bit weird, because this genuinely does feel as close to meat.
Yeah.
And I'm almost like, did they send the wrong dish out in the restaurant?
Yeah.
You know?
That's interesting. I've never had meat before. Yeah, I still do like that, because it's just a different flavour and a texture that I've not had, and knowing that it's also not meat. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it wouldn't put me off it. It's just that I remember being served it in a restaurant. I think I was in America, and it was so close that I just went, oh, I think they've given me the wrong burger. And I was like looking at it thinking, like, this looks like meat, it smells like meat.
Yeah, because there's also that redness, like a beetrooty type redness, isn't there?
Yeah, it's quite like unnerving when it's been that long since you meet me. I was really worried that I'd accidentally got the wrong burger, which has happened to me before as well.
Yeah, and that's just perfect positioning. And again, like for businesses of all sizes, it's just like doing something different. Like your brand story and brand strategy are very kind of interrelated. Like, that's what you do. You're telling a story in a certain way that hasn't been told to maybe an underserved market, or just in a different way. So the idea is that you want to move into this white space that no one's really moved into, and you're owning that space and you're defending that space. And that's the kind of things that you want to explore when you're thinking about, your audience, who you want to serve, but then how differently can you serve them? Because there'll always be someone that does what you do. Now, very rarely can you be a unicorn in anything, but you can position yourself differently, or you can tell a different story and stand out. And that's the power of story.
And that's what you've done, isn't it? In terms of, what you do, there are other people that do it, but people resonate with your story, your confidence to be openly and unashamedly different in what you do. And it's made people connect with you. And I did the same with LinkedIn training. There was no heavily tattooed blonde single mums like visibly on LinkedIn being LinkedIn trainers. They were much more stereotypically like middle to more retirement age white corporate guys. And so I was like, oh, I'm stand out. That's made me different. Obviously I'm not doing that anymore, but it was made me different and made me own it. So as a sort of parting tip, if I'm a small business owner who is a little bit fearful about telling their story or are unsure about where to start, what would be your best tip?
I think lean into the things, we've mentioned it earlier on, into the things that you think are ordinary, because everyone tries. And I'm slightly contradicting myself when I say that you want to be radically different and you want to move through that differentiation. And definitely for businesses, it's true. But the one thing that we as people over businesses have is ourselves. You can really, it's as cheesy as it sounds, but it's so true, is the biggest zag is yourself. Like, you can be yourself at any time. The problem is that you just don't think that that's enough, and we try hard to be something else, and you almost dilute that real side of you. So there's that one tip is lean into those differences. And the second tip is, like, who are you really trying to serve? Do a little bit of social listening, whether it's just manually on LinkedIn or and this is where AI really does come into play, and I do like using AI for this. There are tools like, I don't know whether you've heard of Gummy Search or Idea Ape. What it does, it looks at Reddit subgroups, and it just does the social listening for you. And then it comes up with patterns that your audience or your potential audiences are talking about, or problems or solutions or pain points that aren't really or underserved. So that's really, really important. And we use it for companies now as well. We'll do a little bit of that research and we'll just find out insights. And like, actually, you know what? No one's talking about this. We did a brand strategy for a menopausal brand, and it was weird because it was 3 blokes doing a strategy for a company about menopause. We didn't really understand it well. And that was the great thing, because it was an empty canvas for us, it was a blank canvas for us, but we looked at those Reddit groups and we realized that there was a voice that was unheard, and that's your story. So, that story doesn't have to be your own story, but you should be able to identify what those stories are. And if you align with your values, like a menopausal brand, we aligned with it because a lot of us, 3 of us had partners Well, two of us were going through the perimenopause stage, and we didn't really understand it as partners,
Yeah.
you know, and then we started seeing this, and we had a different angle on it, and we just embraced that story, and that became the narrative for that brand. So yeah, it can be your own story, or it can be someone else's story or another group's story that you've not really discovered, or other brands out there or other businesses haven't discovered, but they align with your values, and you want to be the champion of that. And once you are the champion of that narrative or that story, people will just come. You'll be a magnet.
Yeah. Oh, it's been so nice chatting with you, Ash. Thank you so much.
This has been a pleasure.
Supporting small business owners is my biggest passion, and that's what my membership community, the HoLT, is all about. Inside the HoLT are more than 150 masterclasses from experts in every business skill you could ever want, and we add more every single month. There are also sales clinics, tech clinics, wellbeing support and advice, and discounts on a huge range of software and services. But it's so much more than just trainings and resources. Everyone inside the HoLT shares their years of knowledge and experience generously, with kindness and without judgment. They're super active, the chat channels are buzzing, and it's like having 600 business cheerleaders in your pocket, willing you to succeed and helping you wherever they can. And we offer all of this and much more at an extremely low price, because we know that budgets are tight when you're bootstrapping a business. The HoLT is a kind, inclusive and non-judgmental place where everyone knows that working together is the fastest way to succeed, and it makes it a whole lot more fun. We would love for you to join us. You can check out the full details on the-holt.com. Or if communities aren't really your vibe and you just want access to the hundreds of expert masterclass recordings with a combined value of more than £10,000, you can access the Vault right now for just £20 per month. The Vault is all the masterclasses with none of the chat or distractions, just pure value. Visit the-holt.com/vault to sign up and start binging your way through brilliant trainings from leading experts.